Once individuals realize that there is a parallel financial system that has been built for the people, and this is what happens. The more people want to buy Bitcoin, or the more people that want to hold Bitcoin, the more valuable it becomes. Why? Because it's scarce. Same as land. The more people that want to buy the land in Accra or in your city, the more valuable it becomes. Manhattan in 1920 was worth a few dollars. How much does the plot of land in Manhattan cost right now? And why is the plot of land expensive right now? It's because you have corporations with a ton of money able to come in and say, hey, I'm going to pay what, millions of dollars, $100 million, $10 million for this plot of land. In 1920 or 1940, maybe you didn't have that, right? So the value increases with an increase in demand and the willingness of people to want to put more money towards the thing. So it is my belief that over the next decade, or let's say 5 to 10 years, the world will realize what I now know, or what I discovered in 2017, which is we have a financial system that does not discriminate. It doesn't care whether you are a child that was just born yesterday. It doesn't care. In actuality, it doesn't even care if you are a smart device, right? It doesn't care. It treats everyone the same. So if you wanted a loan, you can go borrow leveraging the system, and they don't even care whether you have a job or not. The question is, do you have Bitcoin? Do you have something to guarantee this loan, right? And it opens a new financial system that many individuals are not accustomed to.
Welcome to the Pepper Soup Talk Show, where we bring to the table movers and shakers in the African diaspora. Our special guest today is someone who has been making a real statement when it comes to the investing and entrepreneurial world. He's an investor, he's a Web3 entrepreneur, he's an NFT trailblazer, and he's actually a pharmacist by trade. And we're excited to hear about his story, how he came to be who he is today. He and I had a chance to connect at NFT NYC, and his project, the Royals, is bringing diversity into the Web3 and the NFT space. I myself am actually a Royals holder, so it's an honor to have him, on our show today. And we're excited to hear him go into what exactly the Royals is doing and how they are impacting the Web3 and NFT space. And so, without further ado, Dr. Hans, we'd like to welcome you to Pepper Soup Talk.
Thank you so much for having me. It's an honor to be here. Yeah, it's first and foremost, it's a blessing to know that you're part of our royal family. And I know we're going to dive into royals at some point, but very, very, very excited to be with you too, to have this conversation, to get individuals to hear about perhaps my story and the importance of investing and building wealth, and also this new crypto Web3 ecosystem, which is currently being built right in front of us, and to make sure that we don't miss out on perhaps a once in a lifetime opportunity to be able to participate in something that could truly, truly, truly build our generational wealth.
Absolutely, and now I like that you bring up this idea of a lifetime opportunity and not missing out, because something that I've talked about before is that our communities often are late when it comes to these new technologies and these new kinds of opportunities, and for different reasons. But a project like the Royals is is helping to change that narrative. And again, we'll get into that. But Dr. Hans, if you could tell us a little bit about where you come from, and so how you sort of came up and landed in the path you are today.
Yeah, very, very humble beginnings for my life when it started in the US. But in Ghana, which, I was born and raised in Ghana, West Africa, we were an upper middle class family. So from the standpoint of my parents, so top 10% of income earners in Ghana. And I share that because most people might not know this, but if your parents went to some kind of higher education in terms of college, automatically you belong in the upper middle class in Ghana, right? You can afford to have, you have a car, right? Which you can kind of drive around. You can eat American cereal, right? and things of that nature. So, grew up, exposed to, views of, let's say, the Western world via movies and TV of that and things of that nature. So there was always this dream of, oh, what would it be like if you come to America, right? And when our family did end up in America, we went from top 10% in terms of income in Ghana to bottom 20% in America. And many immigrants can relate to this, right? Because, and if you're wondering, how does that happen? Well, one is exchange rate, right? If you need $4 or $5 to be equivalent to one of your Ghana cities, right? All of a sudden, there's just a huge transformation. This is also why, and we can talk about this later, why I'm so passionate and bullish about crypto, because one Bitcoin in Ghana is equals to one Bitcoin in the US, is equals to one Bitcoin in India, is equals to one Bitcoin in Japan. Anywhere, it holds and retains that value across the board, regardless of the country that you go to. So life started not life, but, after we immigrated, life in the US started in Bronx, New York. We were sharing an apartment building with another family. I used to say that was us as immigrants creating the concept of Airbnb before it even, even rolled out, right? We've been there, we've done that. And at that time, right, when I didn't have anything, the only asset, and by asset, I mean you own something of value. The only asset I owned at that time was a Metro card, where you just put money on and you can take the train, you can take the bus. That was the only asset that I owned. And along that journey, immigrant parents would tell you, become a doctor, become a nurse, become a lawyer, become an engineer, right? The stereotypical careers that they want all of us to do. And my mom wanted me to be a doctor. But along that journey, I was lucky to have met an individual who introduced me to information that changed my life. And this is where I want the listeners to pay attention. The only way that something in your life changes is if you come in close proximity to someone or some kind of information that causes you to see things not as you believe they are or as you are accustomed to it, but that it could be different, right? And the thing that I received was a recommendation to read a book. The book is titled Rich Dad, Poor Dad by Robert Kiyosaki. And the subtitle for the book is What the Rich and Wealthy Teach Their Kids About Money That the Poor and Middle Class Don't. Now, I shared the story in Ghana, we were upper middle class, but whether it's upper middle or lower middle class, you are still what? Middle class. So we weren't, or I wasn't taught anything about what the rich teach their kids about money. And that book blew my mind. And I'll summarize in 2 sentences what I learned, but I highly recommend everyone listening to this to go get that book and read that book. The first thing that I learned from the book is, if you want to build wealth, you want to acquire assets. What's an asset? An asset is something that makes you money, or it's something that grows in value over time, right? Once I understood that, it was like, whoa, no one ever said that to me. right? The second thing that I would say is, it's a subtle thing that I got from the book. It doesn't say it right in there. Is this concept of compound interest. When you do get an asset, or when you do get some kind of investment, the ability for that thing to compound and grow over time without you having to exchange your time for money is what unlocks freedom. When I was when life was happening in Bronx, New York, everyone around me was optimizing for, how do I make more money per hour? How do I go from $6 to $20? And literally, I had friends who would celebrate because they have, at that time I was being paid $6. My friends would get a security job at Macy's, and they would be celebrating, and I celebrated with them, honestly, that they are now being paid $20 an hour. Then, someone else would say, hey, I got a job at a distribution center, right, or a factory, and now I'm being paid 25. And we're like, yay. One thing that never left me was, I was never optimizing for short-term kind of hourly pay. Right? I was optimizing for long-term wealth, right? So the moment that we realize, or I realized, that the way wealth is built is in the acquisition of assets, I looked around me and I realized that many people, as immigrants, as minorities, we don't have any assets. In our mind, the only asset we know is build a house in Ghana or buy a house. And besides that, the other asset is dressing really nice, having a nice car. There's nothing wrong with any of those things, but that is our concept of wealth or assets. And once I realized it wasn't, I felt a calling to shift that. So I'm going to speed through my story at this point. So I went on to pharmacy school. I graduated, and I did a Path of Distinction MBA program. And when I came out, I realized that no one was teaching our community about building wealth. And I stepped into that role, or if I should say, I answered that call. And here we are.
Thank you for so eloquently, taking us through your journey. Especially, I didn't know you from the Bronx too. They came up in the Bronx. Both, my business partner here, Sekou, and I, we're from New York too. And so I'm from New Rochelle. He's from Harlem, right?
Right. I also Bronx as well.
Okay.
So yeah, my family live in the Bronx for many years.
Yeah, and we could relate to the immigrant family mentality also of the career tracks, but also not having certain information. And I think that you bring up a really good point about coming across a person or coming across an information that could really change the course of your life, or at least change your thinking, that can then change how you go about your life, because it's not always about necessarily how intelligent you are or how knowledgeable you are, but your awareness of, like, when you came across Rich Dad Poor Dad, which is a classic, and you're seeing it's a complete mindset shift, and so that's something that I definitely think about. But Dr. Hans, if you could take us into your investment experiences, because I know, so you're the chief investment officer, right, for Investing Tutor. Can you take us into, like, how you started that? You spoke a little bit about kind of what inspired that path. We can talk a little about starting that and what your experience has been with sort of tutoring and helping others with financial investments.
Yeah. So I would say around 2016, when I graduated from the Path of Distinction MBA program at William and Mary, I looked around me, and the types of questions that my friends were asking was very basic. What I mean by that is, I had someone ask, what is a stock? And I was like, whoa. I mean, if you're asking me what is a stock, or if you're asking me where do I buy a stock, it's like there is a disconnect, right? Because then it means that many of us don't know about this. And just to put it into context, 7 years prior to that time of when my friend had asked me, what is a stock? How can I buy a stock? I had been reading so much about personal finance, investments, and wealth building. And the reason is because after I read Rich Dad, Poor Dad, there was this inspiration and passion to go and continue to learn and consume more and more and more, right? So I read over 400 to 500 books on the topic.
Wow.
I've read,
Wow.
yes. I've read over 40,000, almost 50,000 plus financial journals,
Wow.
reports, all of that. So in that moment, when I had a friend ask, what is a stock or how do I buy a stock? I just was like, man, this system, this financial system in the US and across different countries is failing minorities and it's failing immigrants, because I looked at my uncles and aunts and family relatives who came to America, this land of the great and everything. And many of them cannot stop working, even though they are in their 70s.
Mhm.
They can't stop working. And I said to myself, if someone doesn't bring the right information to our community,
Mm.
we are going to be exactly the same.
Mhm.
We're going to be 70 and we can't stop working.
Yeah.
And I looked around and no one was doing it. No one. So I said, you know what? Someone has to. So I retired my Doctor of Pharmacy degree. I want you to imagine that for a second. Like,
Yeah.
telling your Ghanaian parent or even better, telling your wife or significant other,
Yeah.
paid you and calculated the amount of money that is going to be coming to the family, right?
Yeah.
Right? Full transparency for those who think, marriage is all like, roses and, when
Yeah.
you have to make an important decision, such as a career transition,
Mhm.
where you go from earning $120,000
Yeah.
to, at that time, Investing Tutor was earning, give and take, about 15 to 20,000 per year because I was working on it part-time.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So I went from 120 down to 20 and I said, this is what I'm going to do. I remember when I shared that moment with my wife, like a tear dropped down her cheek. She was in tears because she realized in that moment that, one, my husband, when he's committed to doing something, he's going to do it. so this is our reality, right? And my wife called my parents. She understands the Ghanaian dynamic, so she was trying to leverage it. So she called my parents, tried to get them to convince me, and I just kept on because I said, if I don't do this, we are going to all meet that same fate of being 70, being 80, being 65, and not being able to stop working because we don't have any assets. You see, most Ghanaians, most Africans view a house as an investment, but they won't know till they are 65. When they have a house and no income coming in, that's when they are going to realize, oh, wow, the house is not, it's not an investment unless I'm willing to sell it. But you literally worked so hard to build that thing that is a symbol of your success for all of your hard work. Can you imagine telling the person to sell it, right? So it's in that moment that people realize that, oh, wow, I really don't have any assets. And I didn't want that to happen to our generation. So I launched the Investing Tutor in 2016. It's been such a phenomenal journey.
Yeah.
And I'll be transparent. My goal at that time initially I was like, I want to be the #1 investing tutor in the world. I want everyone to know me. And I was like, is that important? And the quick answer that was placed on my heart was, no, it's not important. Let me show you what's important. Every African should know you. Or everyone who, you know, is that target market of they are living in the US or they've come to the US, right? Or let's see, we can even, well, the statement was every African should know you. That's the most important. But there are other immigrants, there are other minorities as well who will benefit from this. But the ultimate goal is, can you tell your story because other Africans will resonate with it? Let them see how you went from someone in the bottom 20% in Bronx, New York, in a shared apartment building to, and I say this humbly, the top 1% in the US. How did you get here? Right? How did you change your mindset? How did you get to this point? So that everyone realizes I was nobody. Right now, people say I'm somebody because I've started the investing tutor and, you know, the Royals and all of this, but literally I was no one. And funny enough, I really still don't see myself as anybody, but you know what I mean? Like everyone views you externally as, oh my gosh, you're Dr. Hans. Sure. But we all have the same 24 hours in a day. We all sleep at night. We all wake up. We all have to do what we have to do. So in that regard, you know, it is, if I was able to go from earning $6 an hour, right? I would say approximately, I'm trying to do this quick math off the top of my head, approximately, let's say 15 to 17 years ago, okay, right? And if I could go from that to where I am today, in my opinion, anyone should be able to do it. Anyone should be able to do it.
Dr. Hans, it is such an honor to have you on our talk show today and really sharing your just wisdom and experience with us, because I'm sitting here and it's just so transformational. And I think like your mindset, your drive, and your passion to really do this work, not only for yourself and your family, but like to really uplift our community, the African community. I just wanted to also like dive into this idea of, you are one of the few African people like that, you know, the risk of the decision that you were trying to make. What is, what's why is it that we Africans or African parents, we've been taught to play safe and not take a risk? Because you took this risk and it changes your whole life today. But why are we scared to take a risk? Why we always have this idea of like your parents teach you to play safe, and then we condition that way? My question is, why is it like it's so easy for us to always play safe and not take risk? And what can we do to change that narrative or way of thinking?
Yes. You know, they say Maslow's hierarchy of needs, right? If you are trying to figure out how to put food on the table, it's very difficult to be dreaming about the big and the grand things that you can be doing in your life, right? And the truth is this: the only reason that I was in the position to take the risk is because my parents, right, laid a foundation by, you know, in many ways, let's say coming to the US, bringing me to the US. And at that time, yes, it's a risk. You jump into doing this entrepreneurial thing or you don't, right? But at that time, you can almost say that you had somewhat of a buffer, right? Because you're not necessarily worried about, can I put food on the table? Because yes, the business was still bringing in 15 to 20K a year. So you can still put food on the table, right?
Yeah.
So the most important thing is this. We have to acknowledge that, you know, as immigrants who are in this country, we are more than likely going to be tilted towards taking the easy and the safe route. I have a story that I even want to share with you, and it's completely random. But at some point in my father's career, he was in his 50s, and the company that he had been working for 30 something years, they offered him an ability to retire 5 years early, and they offered him a huge lump sum of money. Okay. Versus staying with the company for an additional 5 to 7 years or so and still continuing his regular kind of, paycheck. My mom was like, take it. Like, you know, if, for example, if my dad had taken that money, and let's assume he had invested it in, you know, in the S&P 500 or certain stocks, right? Like Tesla, or you get where I'm going with this. If he had, you know, invested that money, he would be incredibly rich, right? Because we're talking about the power of investing here. But guess what? He felt he could not make that decision. Why? He felt he needed a paycheck because he has a family with kids. Also, he felt this responsibility as the firstborn in his family of helping his relatives come to the city and settle down in Accra, and making sure that he is in a position to be able to help all of them. So there was this intense burden of, I have to look after so many people. He literally had to disregard a decision that was beneficial to him to do this. But the reason I share that with you is because our parents have made those sacrifices. So none of us in our generation have an excuse, especially if you're in America. None of us have an excuse to say, I cannot take any risk. You don't have any excuse. But with that being said, you should take intelligent and calculated risks. What do I mean by this? The investing tutor proved that people were willing to pay money for their service, right? I did the business part-time for about a year. I would work from, let's say, 8 to 4:30. I'd come home, eat when I get home, about an hour, hop on tutoring calls from about 6 to about 10 p.m. at night, okay? I did this nonstop for a full year. I was working Monday through Sunday, 12 to 14-hour days. My wife, after a year of doing this, she was like, do you realize we don't eat dinner together? And I was like, oh, I didn't realize. I was like, oh, I didn't realize. Right. I was doing everything to make sure the business was successful. But guess what? Before I took that leap, I knew that someone else, and this is where it's important, it's not family and friends. It is someone else that you don't know is willing to exchange their hard-earned money for what you're offering. The moment you see that transaction happen, that is confirmation you need to be able to, in my opinion, take a calculated and intelligent risk.
Yeah, once you have that customer or yeah. I mean, you just talked about working 12 to 14-hour days, including your day job, and I don't want that to go over people's heads, how much dedication and work it takes in order to bring what you dream up to fruition. And so thank you for sharing that with us. Dr. Hans, you mentioned earlier about at the beginning of the conversation we talked a little bit about Bitcoin. You mentioned Bitcoin and how one Bitcoin in Ghana is equivalent to Bitcoin here, is equivalent to Bitcoin in Japan. Can you talk a little bit about why it's important that especially our people are investing in, first of all, getting an understanding of cryptocurrency and what cryptocurrencies are, the power of Bitcoin. And then if we can kind of go into your entry point into that space.
Thank you so much for the question. And I want to just let you know, this is perhaps one of the most important segments that, you can listen to in this interview. I'm not saying the rest aren't important, but this is incredibly important. Cryptocurrency, let's start first with the definition. What does it mean? Cryptocurrency, okay? Or crypto assets, right? We can use those words interchangeably. It is a currency or an asset that is protected by encryption. The encryption is cryptography. So it means that an individual cannot fake the thing, right? It's encrypted. It's like a password you cannot crack into, or, you cannot break into it, right? And Bitcoin is one of the most secure encrypted technologies in history. So in 2008, around October, this gentleman was looking around as banks were failing in the US, financial systems were collapsing in England, UK, and across the world. This person or group of people said that, you know what, it is time that the people have a currency that cannot be controlled by any government, any person, any institution. No one should be able to control it. It should be a people's money or the people's financial system. So this individual created the code for that technology. And within the code, he or she or they set a parameter. And the parameter is this: there will only be 21 million of these Bitcoin, okay, in circulation. That's the parameter. Why is that important? Oh my gosh, it's incredibly important. Let me break it down so people understand why it's important. And I'm going to use an analogy that every single person will understand, especially if you are Ghanaian or African. The plots of land in your major city, so whether it's Accra or any other country, you cannot make more plots of land. So what happens? The value of those plots of land grows astronomically. 20 years ago, a plot of land was $100 or so in Accra. I remember it. Now you have some for 50,000. 100,000, millions of dollars. Why? Because you cannot make more plots of land. So the person with the highest amount of money willing to pay will be sold that plot of land. So we call that a fixed supply of let's say, land. So now let's shift over to Bitcoin. There is a fixed supply of Bitcoin, 21 million. There will never be any more Bitcoin that will ever be created. What does that mean? It means this. Similar to the way 20 years ago when land was $100 and I didn't understand basic economics, right? or to put it another way, at that time I was small. So maybe and I mean this respectfully, but my dad didn't realize the opportunity. And he says it all the time, boy, if I had known, right? If I had known, right? Yeah. If we had understood basic economics of, hey, this is a scarce asset. You can make more land. In the same way, you cannot make more Bitcoin. So many individuals don't realize this, but over time, if many people realize that this currency, which is Bitcoin that I'm speaking about specifically, is not controlled by a government, it's not controlled by any company, it's not controlled by politics, it's not even controlled about how you feel about it. Right. It is just there. And there are 21 million Bitcoin, there. And within each Bitcoin, there are 100 million what's called Satoshis or sats. So it can even be broken down into smaller denominations, almost like cents and quarters and things of that nature. Once individuals realize that there is a parallel financial system that has been built for the people, and this is what happens. The more people want to buy Bitcoin, or the more people that want to hold Bitcoin, the more valuable it becomes. Why? Because it's scarce. Same as land. The more people that want to buy the land in Accra or in your city, the more valuable it becomes. Manhattan in 1920 was worth a few dollars. How much does the plot of land in Manhattan cost right now? And why is the plot of land expensive right now? It's because you have corporations with a ton of money able to come in and say, hey, I'm going to pay what? Millions of dollars, $100 million, $10 million for this plot of land. In 1920 or 1940, maybe you didn't have that, right? So the value increases with an increase in demand and the willingness of people to want to put more money towards the thing. So it is my belief that over the next decade, or let's say 5 to 10 years, the world will realize what I now know, or what I discovered in 2017, which is we have a financial system that does not discriminate. It doesn't care whether you are a child that was just born yesterday. It doesn't care. In actuality, it doesn't even care if you are a smart device, right? It doesn't care. It treats everyone the same. So if you wanted a loan, you can go borrow leveraging the system, and they don't even care whether you have a job or not. The question is, do you have Bitcoin? Do you have something to guarantee this loan, right? And it opens a new financial system that many individuals are not accustomed to. So when I realized that, I was like, whoa. As immigrants and minorities, we often miss the major wealth building trends and opportunities that happen. And I'll share this. Let's go back, like 1950s, right? That was the best time to buy real estate. Now, I don't mean this disrespectfully, but when I hear people kind of right now saying real estate is how you millionaires are created, so come buy real estate, I laugh, because I'm like, you're so late. Okay, you should have been saying that in like 1950. It's like so late. I'm not saying real estate cannot make you money now, specifically talking about the US and across different countries. I'm not saying that, but like, you're late. Okay, when it comes to revolutions or opportunities to build massive wealth, real estate is late. I'm not saying it cannot, provide you income and do all of these things, but it's just late. So real estate was like 1950s. And guess what? Stocks, specifically tech stocks, the best time to have owned that was around like the 90s, when the internet was being created. But guess what? Both of these periods, minorities, Blacks, immigrants, we were kept out. Because back around the 1950s, there were rules in place that prevented, Black folks from being able to get a mortgage. Or even if the house that you'd buy, it would be in a territory that has depreciated value versus a suburb, where they will say you cannot live in this suburb because you're not white, right? So we were kept from owning valuable property, getting access to loans to buy these assets. And when it came to the stock market boom of like the 90s, where individuals were creating the PayPals and the Apples and all of these things, there wasn't Robinhood. There wasn't smartphones. You needed access to a financial advisor to be able to get access to stocks. And to talk to a financial advisor, you needed $100,000, $500,000, $1 million in assets, because they make a percentage of the money that you're investing. So if you came to them and you said, hey, I have $500 to invest, as an immigrant, man, back then, that's a lot of money. Can you imagine? 1995, say you have $500 or $1,000 to invest, a lot of money for an immigrant. But to that financial advisor, they will laugh because they see larger funds. So we kept out of that opportunity as well. So if someone is out there saying, stocks or the stock market is the only way that you're building wealth. Once again, I laugh because like you see the step-by-step journey. Once again, you are late, right? Like, so the question is, what is the thing that we can be early to? The answer is crypto assets, cryptocurrency. And in this moment in time, nothing is holding us back from embracing or adopting this technology. Because we have the smartphones, we have the internet. The only thing that's lacking is the knowledge, the education. And I'm trying to bring that to our community, and so we don't miss out.
Thank you for that context, and Dr. Hans, around the market. And like you said, this is not financial advice, but definitely guidance, especially people who are maybe jumping in or thinking about taking that step into the market.
Right.
Yeah.
Again, Hans, as you know, I was actually taking notes. So I took note of some of these information that you shared, so I don't forget. But these are very valuable and important information, and I hope like you have a podcast where I could be able to tune in and just see like I'm about to start getting into this. What information am I receiving from Dr. Hans? So thank you again for being vulnerable with us. Thank you for your transparency. And thank you for just giving this information to us in a way that is raw, in a way that is like very honest. And you don't actually need to have a financial knowledge, anything like this, for this to make sense to you. So it's honestly an honor to have you on our talk show, especially. So shout out to Ghana. And speaking of Ghana, which country you think has the best jollof rice? You seem like a very honest person, Dr. Han. So again, we listening to your next response. Which country do you believe has the best jollof rice?
Yeah, like you said it, I'm very honest. So the truth is, I personally have not had, Nigerian jollof. So my answer is a little bit biased because individuals that have had Nigerian jollof and some Nigerian friends of mine have told me that what they pride themselves in is the fact that they don't flavor their jollof. It's just like the way it is. We don't need to add things to it. Just based on that context, I know with full confidence that Ghanaian jollof is the way to go, because you need to have some flavoring. You need to add to it, right? I mean, obviously, it's almost like, and I don't mean this in a very kind of a negative way, but I know this could be taken in a completely negative way. It's like saying, do I put on makeup to improve my look in some way, right? And not speaking about myself, or do I not have any makeup and just go natural, right? Obviously, the market, as we know it, has demonstrated that even something as simple as lipstick, right, could improve the visual appearance. So in that same way, right, you can say that just based on that, the fact that Ghanaian jollof does add to it, right, in some way, in my opinion, would be the preferable one. But I do have to taste to circle back and give you the definite answer.
Okay. All right. Well, there you have it.
Well, I'll say, I appreciate your honesty. I will say I tried Ghanaian jollof for the first time.
Do you have a rebuttal? This is your rebuttal?
I mean,
there you go. You're getting challenged here, Dr. Hans.
You both already know how I feel. So, but I will say Ghanaian jollof. It tasted, I was surprised. I was surprised when I tried it for the first time. I was surprised. Right. So I'll give you that.
I do have to actually, because this is me making an assumption. So it's not a definite answer, because I have seen, and in the same way, I have seen individuals who do not wear makeup that And I'm not trying to make this like about, male or female, because some males, if they want to, can choose to have makeup. But this example specifically is for females. I've seen some females that do not wear makeup and they are absolutely gorgeous. Like they just are, right? They just are. So it could be that Charlie, Nigerian jollof just doesn't need anything, right? So once I do have it, I'll be able to come back and let you all know.
But I could assure you, I think even if you jump on the side of Nigeria, I think your answer will still remain the same. I think so. I think so.
Dr. Thompson, we definitely want to get a little bit, before we let you go into the Royals, and you talk to us about the Royals project. And before we go into it, I wanted to, I was just telling Sekou here before we started speaking with you that I was at the Audacity event during NFT in New York. And it was actually my first time experiencing in real life utility from holding an NFT and being a part of an NFT community. And that was, all thanks to the Royals, because the Royals I saw at that event in particular really took care of their own. And so, so I've been telling, my friends that, but can you take us through the Royals, sort of what inspired that project? And if you also talk too about like the difference between cryptocurrencies and NFTs.
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely. So first, let me explain what an NFT is, and then we come into the Royals. So an NFT is a technology, right, for verifying who owns an asset. And this is where it's important, because at the beginning of this podcast episode, I told you all that the most important thing that we need to own are assets, right? So an NFT is a technology for verifying who owns an asset. So you literally get to know who is the owner of this thing. That's very important. Number two, an NFT is also a technology that allows you to be able to put a price on an asset while digitizing that thing, okay? So to put it another way, if I wanted to sell my car, okay, I have to go through a manual transaction of this person pays me money. I have to sign a document and write their name and sign it as proof that they are now the owner of the car. It's a very manual process. NFTs are just digitizing all of that. And I use a car as a very simple example. But in the future, if a token, okay, and I want you to think about a token as a digital thing that has a unique serial code or ID, right? If a token is attached to my car and I have that token in my phone, think of it as my Apple wallet or Google Pay wallet. Once that token is in my wallet on my phone, it is proof that I am the owner, right? And NFT stands for non-fungible token. So let's just, understand that it's a token, right? Non-fungible means not interchangeable, or it's unique, right? Non-fungible, right? So if the token is in my phone, I know I'm the owner. So guess what? When I sell the car to someone else, instead of this whole lengthy paperwork, signing this and this and that, what if I can just tap on the token, hold on to it like we do with our smartphones, and a menu pops up and it says send. And I hit send and it asks me, what phone number do you want to send the token to? And then I just get the phone number of the individual that I'm buying the car from. And after I get the money that they've paid for the car, I send the token. Now the world knows that they are the owner of the car. It's not a matter of what I'm saying. There is digital proof of ownership. Okay. So most people think an NFT is digital art. It is not art. The technology is being used to verify owners of art, and it's being used to sell art, but NFTs are not about digital art. So in that way, I was looking at the NFT space and I noticed that there were several projects that initially were created and they were worth $100, $200. One example is Bored Apes. It's a profile of different, monkeys and apes, and they just have like some of them can be just like wearing a hat, wearing a tuxedo, just different kind of funny things that I know as an African, it's just hard to convince me to spend my money on something like that. Like, how does that? But guess what? I saw that thing go from $200 when it was minting, or meaning when it was being sold, from $200 to March of this year, it was worth $300,000 per NFT. And I was like, whoa, how is that possible? I mean, last year I saw it go from a few $100s to a few thousand or tens of thousands of dollars. So I was seeing that happening. I was like, whoa, what is this NFT thing? So now I understood it's a technology for verifying ownership and all of the things I've shared with you. And I looked around and I was like, 97% of NFTs are focused on animals: kangaroos, zebras, giraffes, antelopes. I kind of added that because we're talking about animals. And I said, my people will not come and buy this. They won't. This doesn't make sense. So I said, unless there is an NFT project that people in our community can see and immediately value or love, our people are not going to embrace NFTs. And guess what? If we don't embrace NFTs, we would have missed a significant technological shift, because as I've explained to you, NFTs are more than just art. Literally in the future, real estate will be tokenized. And if you own a token in real estate, you own the asset, right? People in Ghana, for example, they buy plots of land and that land is sold to 5 people and they have to figure out who the real owner is. If every plot of land in Ghana was tokenized, there is no ifs, ands, or buts whether you own a property or not. So I know this is the future. It's obvious. It just is 10 to 20 years out. So this fact that the future will be tokenized to me, and another fact, which is people in our community will ignore this space because most of the avatars are mainly animals. I felt unless there was a project that was attractive to immigrants and minorities, we won't come into the space. So this is where the idea of the royals came to me. And the idea is very, very simple. One, I want to showcase different cultures, but we're starting with the motherland, right? African culture or Ghanaian culture. And I want to change the Western narrative that Africa is just this place of poverty. And I want the world to understand that Africa represents royalty and royal heritage. And that person that you are looking at, and I'm talking about this from the standpoint of someone who is, let's say, Caucasian in America, and they don't really understand, and this could be in Europe and everywhere, they don't understand the culture of the person they are working with. And maybe they are looking at that store clerk, or they are looking at that factory worker, or they are looking at that pharmacist or doctor or nurse, and they feel like that person is beneath them. I want this NFT to remind them that no, you are looking at royalty, right? That is like changing that narrative to let you understand that each and every African, each and every person across the Black diaspora represents royalty. There's royalty within us, in our culture and our heritage. So then I was like, let me do this. So created the NFT project, The Royals. There are just 3,000 of them, okay? And I can go on and on because now so many things are coming to mind, like the utilities, the art, so much. But I'm going to summarize this because I know that we're almost out of time. But the idea is also this. How do you make it in such a way that before a person spends money on this digital art, they know that they are getting way more than what they are paying for. Right. So in March of this year, we went live with the Royals NFT collection. And these were some of the things that we told our holders, individuals who are purchasing. At that time, it was about $200 per NFT for the Ankara NFT. And it was $2,000 for the Kente NFT, all in one collection. Kente have 200 NFTs. Ankara have 2,800 NFTs. And we said this: every single NFT holder gets to be invited to Ghana. Okay, so the NFT is not paying for your plane ticket, but it's providing you an invitation to Ghana to come experience our culture. And we will host a royal gala, which is a 5 to 7 hour program. And program is a very, like, I was even saying program, I was like, no, this is not a program. Like, it is an experience, right? A 5 to 7 hour experience where a person is immersed in Ghanaian culture. What do I mean by this? People are going to see some of the best celebrities and artists perform at the gala. They didn't even know this when we were going up to Mint. Some of the best names in the Ghanaian space will be performing there. We're going to have a Broadway show or play at the Royal Gala. There's going to be a fashion show with some of the best, fashion names in Ghana. We will have a comedy skit. We'll have traditional dances. We're going to have traditional kind of musicians. We're going to have a stellar DJ that many people know, and they hear the DJ's names on like every radio channel all the time, right? And the idea is let's get to experience Ghanaian culture. Obviously, we're going to have tons of food, right, that evening. So individuals are going to have this experience. On top of that, we provide personal development, and this is beyond just the gala. We provide personal development, financial education workshops, either virtually or in person, right? We provide cocktail events that we host every year where people can attend. So one of the events we hosted, in New York City, you were at, we want to do more of these exclusively for Royals though, and bring individuals together, because another thing that is not being said is I also want to create a network of individuals who are visionaries, movers, shakers, entrepreneurs, professionals. So as people mingle with these other royals, think about the opportunities that it unlocks, whether it is careers, business partnerships, relationships, right? All of these different things, which can be happening at either our gala or the royal cocktail event. With regards to Ankara versus Kente holders get VIP access to our gala. Also, Kente holders, when they land in Ghana, they go through a completely different kind of tarmac experience to a VIP airport terminal. There's a luxury vehicle waiting to send them to their hotel or destination. There's just a very different experience for our Kente holders. But once again, if an individual is paying $2,000 for an NFT, they have to sit down and say, am I getting $2,000 or more worth of value in purchasing this NFT, right? And this is the massive value of Kente. So every year, the Royals, well, it could be multiple times a year. Sometimes we might not drop collections. We just look at the market. What is the market telling us they need, and we fulfill that need, right? But the goal so far, and I'm generalizing, is every year we're gonna release a collection showcasing a different country. It could be in Africa, it could be anywhere across the world. The NFTs will showcase that culture through the avatars, and it will invite people to come experience that country. And we will host a royal gala in the country, right? So every year, individuals have to buy an NFT if they want to attend the new country, right? Kente Royals never have to buy any NFT if they don't want to ever again. They have a VIP invitation to every Royal Gala forever. That is an example of, would a person say, yes, I will spend $2,000 on this NFT because I'm getting way more value than what I'm paying for. And that's an example of the concept of creating something that has now become the first major NFT collection to showcase African culture, showcase African excellence, invite holders to be able to experience Ghana's culture this year and many other cultures, in subsequent years to come. Positioning ourselves to be able to become a premium, or not even premium, premier blue chip NFT project in this, right? And the reason I said not even premium is because we were premium from the get-go. Like, we're providing a royal experience, right, from the get-go. So yes. And for individuals who are wondering, because the crypto market kind of is down now, and we had spoken about this, now the pricing of an Ankara NFT is around $100 to $150. So what an opportunity for individuals to be able to get in. And we have only about 80 NFTs left to completely sell out. And if you allow me to explain what this means. So you know how Bored Apes, those NFTs went from $200 to $300,000 and $100,000, right? The reason that happened is what we had talked about, supply and demand, similar to the land, right? And then we talked about Bitcoin. In the same way, after a few celebrities bought or purchased Bored Apes NFTs, many people wanted to have it, right? Because it's a cool thing to have, it's a cool thing to own. And I said to myself, okay, we have a collection of 3,000 NFTs, right? Who knows what celebrities or A-list people or influential individuals will want to own this NFT in the future, right? What could the future look like if we have some of the most amazing and most sought after people in the world wanting to own this NFT? What could it be like when there's hundreds of thousands of people wanting a Royals NFT, but there are only 3,000, right? That is something that I guess over time I will get to see and experience, but I do not control the price of the Royals after these 80 have minted out. Once they are gone, the only way to get a Royals NFT is by buying it from someone who already owns it. And that person gets to determine how much they are willing to sell it for because it's their property.
Dr. Hans, thank you for conveying the grand vision for the Royals. And also, when it comes to NFT, helping to convey the importance of the technology that's built on top of, with your examples with cars and real estate being tokenized. And because I think a lot of people still, with where we are right now, are looking at NFTs as just sort of like a collectible, but being able to see all like a project like Royals that has all these different utilities and that goes way beyond a picture, but even like, really, like when you think about the Royals, the symbolism that is embedded in owning one of those NFTs, I think is very powerful.
Very powerful, yeah.
The point in time where significant wealth is created is typically the point in time where most individuals are not paying attention, right? And I feel this is like, many people might not even get or understand this. The pandemic brought a phenomenal opportunity for investors. And at that time I was investing, and I literally saw my net worth literally go from, I don't know, let's say almost 100K to, oh my gosh, like upwards of like 5 to almost 1 million. Like, you know, and I'm just sharing just so people get the context of that kind of astronomical growth that happened just because the market took off like a rocket, And guess what? Over the past 7 to 9 months, I have seen like an 80 to 90% decline in all of that gains, right? So talk about people who literally have not seen their money, like, you know, like completely almost vanish, right? So if anything, I should be the pessimistic person who should be like, you know, where is this? Like if you can imagine last year, oh my gosh, I felt so good. Like, oh my gosh, you're looking at these assets, they've grown exponentially. And now there's like 80 to 90% that's been shaved off of it because of economic conditions. So I say that to say that essentially the people listening to this right now, it's almost like you have been teleported back into history before that great rise, and you can get in now. You can literally get in now. I went up and then came down, and I'm going to be investing more during this time. But someone who didn't ride that, they didn't miss. Because the worst that could have happened, and I say worst, it's worse for other people, but it's great for me, is I maintained my, you know, wealth that was built, and the market never went down, and it just continued to grow from there. That means that people would have missed the greatest opportunity to have built wealth, because it happened in such a short period of time. But now there's been a reset, meaning there is another opportunity now. And this opportunity now, I can say with confidence, will not happen again, in my opinion. Like, we are not going to get an opportunity like this again.
But it actually goes back to the first thing you were saying, this idea of like, you got to be willing to take that risk. You got to be willing to take it. And if you don't seize on the opportunity, you're just going to miss the shit. So Dr. Han, thank you for sharing that with us. We appreciate your time, your knowledge, and all this information that you shared with us today. Was there anything else, anything that we didn't ask you, or any other piece of information that that you think that you can communicate with us today that we didn't ask?
Yeah, absolutely. In terms of a question, you asked phenomenal questions, and I feel this dialogue or this discussion was very genuine. One thing that I would just say as a source of advice is never look to cut corners, right? I don't know who needs to listen to this, but I see many individuals who are trying to find the quickest way to make a lot of money, or the quickest way to start a business, or the quickest way to do something. And there's this mentality of, how can I just cheat my way into getting this thing? There is no easy way to become successful. You have to be willing to do the work. And if a person has a mentality of, let me find a shortcut, right? What's going to happen is you can even work hard and build something. And all that happens is, in one moment, you decide to take a shortcut and everything comes crashing down, because in that moment, you decided to kind of find an easy way out. So the long and short of what I'm trying to say is, no easy way out. Be focused on putting in the work. Hold yourself to a high standard in terms of integrity, in terms of everything. Show up every single day, in my opinion, as a royal, right? And if we do this, and this, you know, allow me, for all of the general listeners, allow me to address this to my fellow African brothers and sisters listening. If we do this and we do this well, we're going to be able to change and transform our continent, right? Across the entire world, it is a fact that Africa has the most, in terms of a young demographic that is poised and ready for opportunity, right? But we need individuals who are not looking to cut corners, who are willing to put exceptional work forward in the things that they do, and just a commitment for excellence. So yeah, that's what I'll leave with each and every one of the listeners.
I don't think there's any better way to end than that. Dr. Hans, it's been an honor and a pleasure having you on. Thank you for really breaking down, especially cryptocurrencies, NFTs, in a way for really like the average person to be able to understand, and for sharing your story with us. For people who wanted to sort of stay abreast with what's going on with you and the Royals, like what would be the best way for that?
Yeah, absolutely. So, you all can connect with me. If it's LinkedIn, you can search for me at Hans Boateng, right? And you'll be able to see the spelling of my name in the show notes. If it is Instagram, it is at theinvestingtutor. theinvestingtutor. Okay. And please note, I'll never DM you because there are many fake accounts out there. And lastly, on Twitter, it is at investingtutor. So, and last but not the least, if you all are interested in becoming or joining our royal family, I highly encourage you to check out the Royals, so THE royals.art, so .art. Mint or purchase your Royals NFT, and we look forward to welcoming you to the family.
No, it's been a pleasure.
Yeah,
absolutely. Thank you both so much.
have a great
rest of your day.
You too.